We wanted to put these on your radar screen so they weren't a surprise.
Okay.
And just to, if,
Go
can I,
ahead.
and just to reiterate and emphasize again what John said is you are maintaining your tanks. So often, obviously that's going to extend its lifespan. You're doing a really good job keeping on top of those items. So that's important.
I'm not saying if we're going to tear apart our whole treatment plant there, the area, I mean, it might well shoot the bullet and put the new water tower up. I don't know. Any other question? Right? That's it. Thank you. Okay. Okay, now report a reclamation to floor monitoring report presentation by RJN Group. Okay. Another presentation.
I'll let you load up the,
May I just interrupt here for a minute? Next time, I'm recommending that we don't have this many presentations. It is 11 o'clock at night, and we are having another presentation. Okay? This is getting old. Go ahead. How long is his presentation?
Short. 7 slides, and it's one final slide is one of them, so I am going to keep it short.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Kramer.
If I may, I plan Public Works to be about an hour and a half. So I apologize. I can't comment on the items that took 2.5 hours prior to me coming up.
You're absolutely right. Go ahead.
Again, let me just intro. This will kind of be the same speech that I gave for the water model. This is the last of the big three tonight. This is sanitary. It's basically 3 presentations, one right after another, with 3 facets of sanitary. This one is the flow monitoring. Last year, we hired RJN to go through and do a first stage I&I portion for the city, inflow infiltration, sanitary sewer evaluation survey. The flow monitoring was the first part. Flow monitoring basically decides what areas in town are in most need of a study and at what level that study is. What you have before you is the executive summary and the recommendations portion of it. If any of you would like the full analytical draft, I can get you those as well, both electronically or in written format. Again, all I'm looking for from the flow monitoring is you folks spent the money for the report. We want to show you what that was used for, what our recommendations came up. The next item on the agenda is the next step to that, which is a process of several years, us looking at our infrastructure and looking at how best to protect that, make changes, and provide for CIP items. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mike for a brief slide presentation and then some Q&A.
Okay.
As John said, there's 3 different items, and I'm going to try to cover all 3 in 6 slides total. So we'll see if we can move through this quickly. This is one of the slides from the exhibit. This is just where the flow meters were. You saw this last year. I did a presentation about a year ago. We got 2 plants. We had 2 flow meters for the south plant and 5 for the north plant. The only important thing I wanted to bring off of this is to keep in mind as we talk about improvements going forward is all the flow goes downstream towards the plant. So when you talk about issues in like Ward 2, I know that's been an area where there's been a lot of issues because it's right along Salt Creek there. Improvements that are in other wards that are further upstream can help areas downstream. So when we talk about trying to improve and get flow out of the system, it all comes together because your treatment plants are really your bottleneck. So that's where it kind of backs up. And so where it's going to come out in the low areas, which are going to be by Salt Creek in Ward 2. So that's one of the things to keep in mind going forward. Here we go. These are the results. Basically what I'm showing here is we're looking at an event which is 2 inches of rain in 2 hours. And there's a reason we focus on that. It's the short duration, heavy intensity rains. When you get the really big rains that cause your flooding everywhere, all rules are out of the window on that because when you get surface flooding everywhere, it's going to impact it. But those really quick, intense ones that aren't necessarily causing the flooding but get into the system, that's what we're really trying to address. And what's showing here is we're calling the peaking factor. There's a base flow that's always in the system. It's supposed to be in the system, the sanitary flow. And then when it rains, that flow level goes up. So the peaking factor is how many times higher is the flow than it's normally when it's dry out there. And your treatment plants handle about 7 to 10 times dry weather flow. So that's what we're trying to get down to. And we're showing here is in that red area, which is kind of in the southwestern part of the city, we have peaking factor over 20. So that's your worst area right there. And then you got some number of other areas that have peaking factors in the 10 to 20 range. Some of them in the 15 to 20 range. Basically, your residential areas in the south all have some issues, and it varies, but they're all areas where we need some level of improvement in them. The northern industrial area, which is great news in this, is it's less than 10. We're not recommending any additional work there. We're done. We did the flow monitoring. We're done. We're going to skip that area in any future recommendations going forward. Just some quick conclusions. Again, most areas do have a high weather flow. That's not unusual for the communities around you. They all have similar issues. You don't have an unusual system, but it's certainly something that you're going to want to deal with going forward. Good news, the industrial area, the flow is acceptable there, so we're not focusing on that. The treatment plants are your limiting capacity in terms of how much flow you get through the system. One really good news coming out of this, and I really want to iterate how good this is your sewer capacity is very good. And I can tell you right now, we're working with the few communities around you that do not have that. And what we're recommending to them is doing relief sewers, which are very expensive. I'm not recommending any of that going forward for your system, which is very good. That's a tremendous amount of savings that you have going forward. But you do have high flow, so we do need to focus on finding those sources where that flow is getting in and trying to eliminate that over time. So how do you do that? The next step is the sanitary sewer evaluation study. Basically, we're looking for where's the flow coming in, specifically finding those defects in your manholes, in your sewers, if they're coming from the homes, and identifying that and then moving forward and eliminating those sources. One of the things I just want to touch on a little bit here, just so you're aware, because you're going to hear more of this going forward over the next few months, is the fact that you have both public and private sources. And I want to show you this pie chart here. This is typically in Northern Illinois, this is the percentage of that clear water flow getting into the system and where it's coming from. And you can see here, about 60% of it is actually coming from the private sector, which is the items in red. The laterals, some pumps directly connected, area drains, other sources. About 60% of flow, and about 40% is the public system, the main lines, the manholes, and so forth. So that is something to be aware of going forward as you're really trying to work on these systems, is where is that flow coming from. And I'm not going to go over this in a lot of detail, but it kind of makes sense if you really look at a system, where is the flow coming from? You've got, your system, you just really have the sewer and your manholes and maybe cross connections with your storm sewer. But if you look at the home, you've got the lateral that's taking the flow from the home. You've got downspouts that are occasionally directly connected. Those are usually addressed, but certainly can be. You can have some pumps, you have cleanouts, area drains, a whole bunch of sources. That's where your flow is coming from, is from the private sector. So that's really why there's so many sources going forward. And that's one of the things, if we're looking at getting what I was calling the peaking factors down to under 10 so that the systems can really handle it, you're not going to get all the way there without at least dealing with a little bit of this. Now, again, the good news is that because of your treatment plants can handle in the 7 to 10 range and your sewer capacity is good, you don't have to deal with everything. I mean, we got some communities where we're telling them, you've got to deal with foundation drains and things that cost $5,000 or more to deal with. And how do you deal with that? How, share costs, and so many other communities are dealing with that. I think you can focus more on some of the lower cost items. So I think there is some good news here that you don't have to do quite as deep as some of your neighboring communities are really having to do in some of their really problem areas. So the reason I wanted to bring this up is going forward, there's no decisions that need to be made today, but as we do some investigations, we're going to have further discussions. That's really the third item on John's list, is how do you want to deal with that? How do you want to deal with some of these private sources? If there are some pumps that are directly connected, how do you want to deal with that? And we're not making any decisions tonight, but I want to bring up some background so that in the next few months, as we gather some information, we need to have further discussions on that and how you want to really take this plan going forward. What I've got here in the recommendations is the total plan. Now, this is a very comprehensive plan. of what we feel if we focus on all of these areas, including the private sources, doing building inspections as well as investigations of the public system to really resolve the problem. What we're showing here is basically a 10-year plan. It's 9 years of investigation, and your rehabilitation would be a year later. So this year you do a study, find the sources. Next year you do the construction to address that, as well as doing the next year's items. Now, yes.
Okay, the areas that are like kind of grayed out, diagonal lines,
Right.
what is that represent?
Those are areas, you see the northern area, I kind of just cut that off. That was where area we just said we didn't feel like we needed to focus on that. There's a little bit of area in the southwest that is relatively new construction, and talking to staff, the feeling was there's no issues there. And that was kind of staff's opinion. There's also one of the lift stations that's in the very southeast corner that there have not been any issues at. I don't remember the name of that lift station, but that there's not any. Now the Woods lift station, which is year 2, there are problems, and that's one of the reasons why it's high on the list. But that little area in the southeast corner was identified as not being an issue that needed to have further study.
But as a follow-up, that I thought an earlier slide had that southwest as a red.
It does, but what we're doing is focusing a lot of the areas right around it, which is basically year 1, and that's the reason why it's year 1 is the older development where we believe all the problems are at.
Excellent. Okay.
And the key thing on all this, because if you look at your entire system, you got about 500,000 feet of sewer. And so if you really think about it, so actually if you had to replace your entire, just the public side of your system, it's well over $100 million of asset that you've got there. That when we're doing this, we're not only trying to get the flow out, you're rehabbing your system to extend the life of that $100 million asset. And so that's where we're, but at the same time, if you're just going to line your sewers, you could spend $50 million to line all the sewers, but what are you really accomplishing? You want to focus on where the problems really are at and doing that, and not just randomly doing things, but focus where it makes the biggest impact.
You just said the Woods lift station is in year 2, and that's a problem. Didn't we just put that in 2 years ago, 3 years ago? Why is that a problem?
Clefstead lift station was 2 years ago. I'm not sure when Woods was done. I know that was done when Mr. Gary Holm was here. I know there were some modifications made to the lift station, but I believe what Mike is referring to is the area that feeds Woods lift station is where the infiltration's coming from, not from the faulty lift station or any work done as part of the lift station.
Correct. It's not actually an issue with the lift station. It's an issue with the lift station reaches its capacity relatively quickly, and so we're trying to get the flows down to keep it below its capacity. So, and that's what I got. That's the plan going forward, is to focus on individual areas. You see the present, which is the next item on the list, which we're not here, is to focus on year 1 going forward, which we'll talk about next.
Alderman Roy Wesley.
Could I get a list of this broken down to like a ward,
Sure.
street? A list of this and wards and streets?
Yeah, what I can do is overlay the ward map over that, so then you have it that way.
Because this way is very confusing to actually see where,
Absolutely, we can put that in the GIS and overlay it with the wards, and no problem.
thank you.
One thing it is kind of based upon the flow areas. One thing I did want to mention is one of the things that's in year 1. It's not really shown on there, but you'll see it in the proposal, is Addison Road. Because that road is being done by the county. I mean, the water main's going in now, and the county's redoing the road. We actually already did the manhole inspections this week. There's a little bit of money left on the flow monitoring project, so we wanted to make sure that any modifications to the manholes in the street can be done before the street's repaved, so you're not trying to go back next year and fixing something that was just repaved. So we're trying to address all of that ahead of time right now, and we're working with John to try to get a couple things put into the repaving job to try to get that done.
Anyone else? No one else? Okay. Thank you. Number 7, report recommendations, sanitation sewer elevation survey contract award to RJN Group. I got it right here, hang on. Staff recommend contract award to RJN Group, 2011, 2012 sanitation sewer elevation survey in the amount not to exceed $94,175. Are you going to change, are you changing something in this, or, go ahead.
I was just going to intro a little bit more if you'd like.
Okay.
In last year's CIP, we had included in there and have been tracking for the last several years this I&I work. And I&I work, SSES work, all same scope of services, basically. I explained in my intro memo. Basically, the flow monitoring was the first step. That was the prioritization. Next step is to start investigating those point sources in and around the areas that we ranked. And basically, this is the contract to do that. This was in the CIP. This is something that was part of the plan. And, again, this is the full-blown study. This is the real McCoy, everything. This is smoke testing, dye testing. It's all. Again, this is a year one contract. I'm not looking at signing outside of year one right now. I'm not looking at anything beyond into year 2, 3, 4, 5. We want to focus worst first. That was the intention of doing the project, the intention of basing it on the flow monitoring and coming to you folks and saying, hey, this is the area that we feel we need to focus on. There's going to be some money put into next year's CIP for the rehab of what we find during this study. So there's going to be additional funds. Again, I can't stress the fact that, we're going to need to address this issue with the treatment plant in the horizon. There's going to be a time where we're going to possibly ask for some dollars from the federal government for a new treatment plant. And they're going to say, how are you addressing your I&I? Baxter and Woodman will tell you this. Mike sitting next to me will tell you this. Those factors will all be looked at. If we don't start addressing it, flow monitoring was the first step. We need to have a plan in place. I'm not saying we have to follow this 9-year plan. I'm not saying we have to use RJN for all 9 years. All I'm saying is year one, we've got it mapped out. Let's look at it. Let's see where we're at. If we can start to tailor back the programs further down the line and perhaps not do as much, if we find some things that are more positive going through. We did a baseline 2 years ago in the Forest View area. We canvassed 115 homes. We got into 85 of them. We made recommendations on 21 of those. There were some homes that we did not get access to. There are some issues outside of that, and that'll lead me into my third presentation, which may actually may have to take out of order to get this in the right track record. But, this is a stepped process. When I put together the CIP 2 years ago, flow monitoring was first year of I&I work. I thought we might be able to get it done in 5 years. Unfortunately, that was cost prohibitive. I wanted to leave it at about $100,000 a year for the actual inspection portion of it. And then the work portion, I was in the ballpark of $500,000 to $1 million in repairs. I don't know if that will be legitimate. It could be close. It could be off. It all depends. This is the worst first scenario. So this next repair might actually be kind of shocking. It might have to be 2 years worth of work. I don't know. I truly believe in my heart of hearts we need to have a plan in place, and I believe I have provided that. Again, the services we can all tailor back. I'm in budget. I'm in CIP for it. Again, if there's any questions, or we can take it out of order and kind of talk about those private sources, but.
Okay. Can I get a motion on the floor?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna do.
Oh, okay, you're seconding the motion?
Was there a motion?
I made a motion.
Okay, I'm gonna second it.
Okay. What was the motion? Question was to award the contract, not to exceed $94,175. There's a second. Question. Alderman Sharp.
We have a couple of aldermen who smoke. Why don't we have them do the smoke testing?
All right. Any other questions on concerns? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Aye, item carried. Thank you, pass. All right, John, can we tape, go ahead. Go ahead.
If possible, I would like to at least talk about the alleys briefly and the pay request.
Well,
If
I
you
haven't got
wanted,
that far yet.
oh, okay, I
I'm
thought-
looking at item 8.
Okay, I thought you were gonna make a
No.
motion that we,
No, I'm looking to, do we have to talk about item 8 tonight? Can we table that?
can I talk about just briefly and just give you my
Well, you gave
cursory
me a
overview?
9-page report on how we needed to, go ahead.
Basically, I'm not looking for anything more than, let me bring you some ordinance revisions that I talk over with the attorney in the future. Are you open to the idea of us being able to do some kind of enforcement to people that do not allow us access during Mike's inspection of buildings? That's it.
Well,
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I mean,
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Go after him.
I agree, because that's how we're
Right
going to,
next door to me.
okay. All right.
And again,
so-
this will all come back to you with the attorney, myself, staff, perhaps RJN, we'll all come back to you and give you our thoughts, and you can go on at that point.
Okay, so we're going to table that item, but we're going to have staff come back with a report on that. So I have a motion to table item number 8 through a future meeting. I'll make a motion. Okay, do I have a second? All in favor? Aye. All right, motion carries. All right, let's go item number 9. Report and recommendation to replacement design work order awarded to Baxter and the Woodman. Okay. Let's see the price tag on this one. I didn't find it. Oh, not to exceed, recommended award design engineer service work order to Baxter and Woodman for an amount of 2011, year 2011 alley replacement program in a lump sum of $47,000. I believe that will take the rest of the alleys out. Brandon.
There's 2 alleys that I'm not proposing to do. They will be in outlying years. They're the 2 dead-end alleys off of Edgewood, south of Irving Park Road on the far east side of town.
But this will take care of the other one, so we would have to come back and revisit those down the line. Am I right?
2 alleys on Edgewood are actually in relatively good condition. They're both dead-end alleys. They actually don't serve the public other than, I think one serves one parking spot. Other than that, they're all private businesses that use them for either their own parking of vehicles or deliveries, loading docks, et cetera.
Okay. That was my motion. Do I have a second? Second. Questions? No questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. I'm going to make a motion to table item number 10, the next committee meeting.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? No? Okay, report and recommendation, number 11, pay request for A-Lamp Cement Concrete Incorporation amount, Addison Road water main replacement. Report and recommendation, pay request for $146,056.50. That will be my motion, approve that.
I'll second motion.
Questions, comments? Alderman Roy Wesley.
Where are we with that? I haven't seen much action out there.
You got on the dais tonight an update, which is the most recent one sent to the residents. And that one stated that right now there'll be an inactivity period for 10 days while the chlorination of that water main takes place. After that, we have to dechlorinate the water main due to its proximity to the Salt Creek. After that, you will see service taps, water mains, the service side of thing from the residents to the water main itself going in. And then you'll see partial restorations of driveways, sidewalk, curb, et cetera. The final turf landscape is not allowed by the county until the fall.
Completion for A-Lamp?
The fall.
Okay, thank you.
Are you looking for completion of water main replacement or landscaping everything?
At least the streets open up to normal.
I believe it will be, Mr. Kramer.
The street's not going to be open up for normal. The county's planning on coming in to start repaving it as soon as we're done. So the level of normalcy you have now will continue for some time until they're done. I would anticipate the county probably being done middle of August, end of August. They want to be out of there before school officially starts or as late as possible, not to interfere with school. Again, the bulk of our work should be done by the first to second week of July, except for turf restoration. And again, that's quick.
Right, thank you.
Yeah, I was just wondering, does this pay request include the on-site engineer salary?
Negative, it does not. This is just for A-Lamp.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, one other item Jeff wanted the floor, or the mayor wanted the floor. It ain't on the agenda, so it's. Do we vote on that? I'm sorry. Oh, we haven't voted? I thought we voted on that. Okay, all in favor? Yeah. We can do it for the last one. You want a roll call? Go ahead. Roll call.
Alderman Woods. Yes. Alderman Roy Wesley.
Yes.
Alderman Coles.
Yes.
Alderman Sizmarsky.
Yes.
Alderman Lazara.
Yes.
Alderman Eugene Wesley.
Yes.
Alderman Winger.
Yes.
Alderman Shockey.
With reservations, yes.
Okay. The mayor or Jeff's taking the floor on this one. It's, I guess they want to give an update on the storm situation we had.
Thank you, Alderman Wesley. Yeah, I just want to give a brief overview of my contacts with ComEd and kind of how the power replacement is going. There was a total of 77,000 customers out in the northern ComEd region because of the storm. As of 6 o'clock today, there was only 33 Wooddale customers still out. A total of 1,133 total impacts in Wooddale. They're looking at a full restoration at the latest by tomorrow evening for those 33 people that are still out. I do want to commend our new external affairs rep. She was in constant contact with me. I spoke to her a couple times a day, which wasn't the norm with our last rep, so I do want to commend her. I was actually involved in a conference call today with ComEd higher-ups, so that was a nice change of pace. I mean, she is doing a good job. She is planning on coming to our next council meeting, the first council meeting in July, so you all can meet her. That's all I had. Oh, also, there was a reverse 911 that went out earlier today, notifying residents of a special brush pickup on Monday. So that did go out earlier today. I think the mayor had a statement too.
I just wanted to thank the police department for acting quickly on Addison Road and Public Works for coming out and cleaning up the streets as well. Some of the aldermen were out helping moving some brush.
Anything else? Anything added to my agenda? The next meeting? No, we cannot. Nothing added? Wow, okay, make a motion to adjourn. Second. All in favor? Aye.